Hello, my name is Jason Faria, and I'm going to be breaking down the boomerang throwing and slingshot mechanic from the game Boomerang X. So the first thing here to note is that you have a boomerang. You can throw the boomerang by pressing the left mouse button. You can also hold down the left mouse button to charge up the boomerang while in your hand. Doing so causes the boomerang to travel further and also take longer to come back to the player. If you hit things after throwing the boomerang, it will bounce off of objects like walls and rocks and even enemies. Doing so will cause the boomerang to kind of ricochet around and will actually take longer to come back to the player naturally. Another thing you can do is while the boomerang is in the air, you can actually press the left mouse button again to slingshot to the boomerang's position. This will also return the boomerang back to the player's hand. After throwing the boomerang, the player can also press the right mouse button to return the boomerang to their hand. This does not slingshot the player and just returns the boomerang to their hand immediately. If the player does nothing after throwing the boomerang, it will automatically come back to the player by homing onto them. The amount of time it takes to get back to the player depends on a few factors. Whether or not the boomerang bounced off of anything. So if it bounced off of something, it will take longer to come back than if it did not bounce off of anything. The last thing to note is that if the player is moving, the boomerang will actually take longer to come back if it misses the player when coming back to the player. The amount of time it takes the boomerang to come back to the player if they are moving really depends on whether or not the player can consistently dodge the boomerang. As you can see here, I can actually outmaneuver the boomerang while it's trying to come back to me, and I can just kind of do this forever if I wanted to. The time it takes for the boomerang to naturally come back to the player after a normal or a charge throw is just 1 second. Both the normal and charge throw have the same amount of time, but if the player ever moves, it will obviously take longer. So since the game doesn't have any way to measure distance, I've created my own measurements using the jump. As you can see here, I am measuring the distance between the rows of stones using my jump while moving forward. So one jump is 2 rows of stones far, which I'm going to say is about 10 units. This is to measure how many units far the boomerang travels when thrown. So for a normal throw, the boomerang travels 10 units far, and as you can see, I am able to hit the second row of stones, but that is all. I cannot hit the third or fourth rows. Now when I do a charge throw that was charged for the minimum amount of time, I can throw about 15 units away, which you can see as I'm able to hit the third row of stones, but not quite the fourth. Now when I charge anything longer than the minimum, my throw travels 20 units far, as you can see from me being able to hit the fourth row of stones. For player feedback, the boomerang makes the same sound when thrown after a normal and after a charge throw. The charge throw also does the animation of the boomerang spinning, and also plays a sound as well. You can tell when you have a maximum charge throw as it's playing a looping sound that goes higher and lower when you reach the charge throw maximum. When the player calls back the boomerang, it makes a specific sound and does a different hand animation as well. When the player does a slingshot, it also plays a specific sound and shows a wind animation on the camera as if traveling fast. Making this video was very informative, and I hope you had a great time. Thank you for watching.